The radio kept whispering the same sentence through the snow long after the battery should have died.
It wasn't a voice exactly, but something in between, like breath pushed through wet cloth.
Tell them we went left.
By midnight, the wind was throwing hard snow sideways across the ridge. Our headlamps barely reached 10 feet, and the cliffs below were swallowed in white.
Somewhere below the trail, a man was laughing in the dark with a voice that belonged to one of the missing boys.
Beside me, old Ranger Mallory was crying without making a sound.
He had heard that voice before, 21 years ago.
I keep quiet, because quiet lets us sleep a little. If you've ever heard your name spoken from a place no person could be standing, then stay with me. Do it for the next person who thinks a trail marker is always telling the truth. Glacier in October is another country.
The light goes flat, and the wind starts coming down from Canada with teeth in it.
Every shadow under the spruce looks like it has been waiting there since before the road was built.
Back then, I was a seasonal ranger, still young enough to believe training could prepare a man for anything.
I respected the wilderness, but I feared it in the way you fear machinery. Dangerous, yes, but explainable. Glacier changed that.
The missing party was 3 young men from Spokane.
They were last confirmed near the cable section, where the trail cuts along a cliff face.
Their rental car sat overnight at Logan Pass, glass crusted with ice by morning.
The official theory was simple. Weather came in, they got disoriented, and they fell.
No one wanted mystery. Mystery is expensive, and it keeps families awake.
But there was one thing that did not fit. A contractor named Peter Walsh radioed in from near the loop.
He heard a man up the slope say, "Pete, come here a second."
The voice moved immediately, appearing across the drainage, saying, "Pete, wrong way!" He arrived at the station with his hands shaking so hard he couldn't unclip his radio.
The report was written off as stress and echo distortion from wind.
Everyone says that until it says their name.
The search kicked into high gear on day 2. I was paired up with Ranger Mallory. He was a guy who didn't talk much, but he was always watching. We pushed through the frozen trees. The wind made this weird, dry, hissing sound. Mallory kept stopping to listen to something I couldn't hear. Around noon, we found this weird mark in the snow. It wasn't a boot print, and it definitely wasn't an animal. It looked like a bare foot dragged backward into the slope. I leaned in to check it out. Mallory snapped at me, told me not to touch it. He just stared at it, and for some reason he didn't even write it down.
A little later, we found a piece of red fabric caught on a branch.
It was from the hiker's jacket, fresh tear, just flapping in the wind. You'd think that'd be good news, but Mallory looked like he'd seen a ghost.
Mallory started scanning the trees real slow.
He held up a hand, told me to wait. Then, from way up the slope, I heard someone call out, "Hey!"
The voice called out again, "Hey, we're down here." But it was coming from above us.
I grabbed my radio, my heart just pounding. I tried to call it in, but the radio just went crazy.
It was all static and voices just layered on top of each other.
For a second, I heard my own voice, like it was coming through a pipe. Mallory reached over and pushed my radio down. He told me, "Do not answer it again." He said, "That is not voice contact." Then the whole forest just went dead silent. Then the voice called out again, but it sounded just like me. It said, "Mallory, come here a second." My stomach just dropped, and I saw Mallory close his eyes, looking absolutely terrified.
We're leaving the Stray Nation.
Mallory's voice was shaking. We moved fast, away from the trees.
I looked back at our tracks.
They were filling in behind us.
The ground was healing itself. We finally reached the rock shelf.
The road was empty below us. Then I saw the first orange flag.
Mallory walked up to the flag. It said we went left. The handwriting was mine. He asked if I wrote it. I told him no. There were 6 more flags ahead. The light was starting to fail. Mallory kept walking into the dark.
He told me about his lost partner.
He said he answered the radio. That was his biggest mistake.
He looked like a broken man.
Our GPS unit started spinning.
The compass pointed at the ground.
We passed the same tree again.
We found a small basin. There were 3 sets of prints. They walked straight into the trees.
Mallory knelt by the tracks.
There was green grass underneath.
Then we heard the laughter. The laughter sounded way too happy for this place.
Mallory looked like he'd seen a ghost.
Then the voice called out again, saying they were okay. I shined my light into the trees. There was someone standing there in a red jacket.
It didn't move like a normal person would.
I yelled that we were coming to help. Mallory grabbed me and told me to stop. He was terrified, and I finally understood why. Then another voice called out his name. It was a name nobody ever used for him.
He just froze right there in the snow.
More figures started appearing in the trees.
They looked like hikers, but something was off.
Mallory just walked right toward them. I followed him into the dark trees. The ground felt weird under my feet. Voices were coming from everywhere now. I heard my mom calling my name. Mallory stopped me before I could answer. Then I saw something smiling in the dark. He told me to run and get out of there.
He wasn't going to leave with me.
The trees were leaning in like they were listening. The red jacket fell right at my feet. I started running as fast as I could. The forest kept changing every time I turned. I finally made it back to the trail. It was pitch black and freezing cold out here. Then I saw my radio sitting on a rock. The radio clicked on, and Mallory's voice came through. It sounded calm, almost bored, as it repeated the message. I backed away, my boots sliding on the icy stone. The radio clicked again, and this time it was my own voice. I stared at it, hearing my younger self sounding so scared. Something moved along the cliff above, testing the rocks. I raised my headlamp, and the beam caught 3 figures ahead. They were young men, one in a red jacket, all facing away. Their heads turned, showing me their pale, hollow cheeks. The figure in red pointed over the drop into the dark. My boots started sliding on the icy stone. I grabbed the cable, feeling the cold bite into my hands. My blood froze to the metal as I hung there. I heard my mother's voice below, begging me to come down. I kept my mouth shut, and that silence saved me. By dawn, a search team found me huddled near the cable. I told them I got separated from Mallory in the storm. I didn't tell them about the flags or the voices. The search lasted 9 days, finding only scattered gear. They found Mallory's hat on his patrol car? They never found the hikers, and they never found him. Peter Walsh quit before winter, and I saw him in Kalispell. He told me the voice followed him home for a week. He moved to Arizona the next spring to get away. I lasted 3 more seasons, learning about the stories.
Every district has a ridge that answers back.
We explain what we can, but the rest is silence. Glacier never let me go, and every October I wake up.
I don't look out the window, and I don't answer.
This morning, there was a trail of snow ending with his hat.
I stare at the hat sitting on the lawn.
It looks exactly like the one Mallory wore. My hands are trembling as I grip the curtain. The silence of the neighborhood feels heavy. I can still smell the sharp scent of mountain snow.
I know if I open that door, the trail leads back to the basin.
I retreat from the window and walk back into the kitchen.
The house feels like a cage.
I sit at the table and stare at my hands.
The radio in the garage is still on.
It's a sound that has haunted my dreams for nearly 2 decades. I should have destroyed it, but I couldn't.
I stand up and walk toward the garage door. My heart is hammering against my ribs.
The air in the hallway feels colder as I approach. I reach for the handle. I can hear the voices now, whispering my name. They sound like people I've known, calling out.
I pull my hand back, gasping for air. The silence that follows is even worse.
I know they're waiting for me to open the door. I turn around and walk back into the living room.
I need to get out of this house.
The woods are everywhere, and the trail is always waiting. I look at the phone on the counter, but who would believe me?
They just tell me it's stress.
I leave the phone and walk to the front door.
I lock it for the 3rd time. I sit on the floor and wait for the sun to rise. I'm just sitting here on the floor, listening to every little creak in the house.
It's like every sound is a footstep outside, and I'm just waiting for the sun to come up.
The light's finally shifting, turning that flat, sickly gray color. I swear I saw a shadow move across the glass, but I'm not moving an inch. My joints are stiff, but I finally stand up. I peek through the curtain, and there it is, a perfect trail of snow leading right to the road.
There it is, just sitting under the porch light.
It looks so small, like a piece of a life that's long gone.
I know I should grab it, but I just can't bring myself to touch it. I'm back in the kitchen, but my mind is just racing. I really need to get rid of that radio, but I'm scared of what might happen if I do. It's like a tether to the mountain, and I don't know if I'm ready to let go. The garage door is so loud, it's like it's screaming in the quiet.
It smells like dust and old oil in here.
The radio is quiet, but I can still feel it watching me. My hand is shaking as I reach for it.
It's freezing, like it's pulling the heat right out of my skin.
I'm holding it, just waiting for it to say something, but it's dead silent. I'm grabbing the hammer, even though I really don't want to. I have to do this. I have to break the cycle. I need to stop the voices and finally be free of that place.
I'm raising the hammer, and I can feel the radio pulsing in my hand.
It's like it's beating right along with my heart. I swing, and the sound of it breaking is just deafening. It's in pieces on the floor, and it's finally quiet. I'm just standing here, waiting to feel better, but it's not coming.
Then I hear it, just a whisper from the broken speaker, telling me they went left.
I stare at the shattered plastic on the concrete. The silence in the garage is absolute. But the voice is still there, leaking out of the wreckage. I back away from the workbench. The door seems further away than it was a moment ago.
The shadows in the corners are stretching toward me.
I reach the door and fumble for the handle.
The metal is freezing, biting into my skin. I throw the door open, but all I see is a wall of thick, swirling fog.
I step out onto the porch.
The street is gone, replaced by the jagged silhouette of the Highline Trail.
I am not in my garage anymore.
The wind begins to howl, carrying voices from the trees.
I see the orange flags again, fluttering in the freezing air. They are everywhere now, marking a path into the basin.
I try to turn back, but the path has vanished.
There is only one way to go.
The voices are getting louder, calling my name.
I see a figure standing between two firs.
It wears a red shell jacket that looks bright against the snow.
It just stands there, waiting for me. The figure lifts a hand, feeling the air. I want to run, but my legs won't obey.
The figure steps backward, and the forest closes in. I follow, stepping into the dark timber. The light fades, replaced by a sickly glow. I hear the voices again, whispering names.
I reach the center of the basin.
3 sets of boot prints lead into the trees.
I listen to the laughter, and I know I'm never leaving.
The laughter from the trees is getting louder.
It sounds like a group of friends on a summer hike, but the tone is wrong. It's too hollow and repetitive.
A figure in a red jacket steps out from behind a fir tree.
It doesn't look at me, but its hand reaches out to test the air.
I want to scream, but my throat is tight with a cold, paralyzing dread.
Then, a voice that sounds like Mallory's partner calls out from the trees.
It says my name, but it's not a human voice.
Mallory stops breathing, his face turning pale as he realizes what's happening.
Mallory walks into the trees, his movements stiff and mechanical. I try to grab his arm, but he pushes me away. He's gone, lost in the past, and I'm left alone in the freezing dark. I follow him, my headlamp flickering as the forest swallows the light. And the voices are everywhere now, a cacophony of names and phrases. I hear my mother's voice, calling my childhood nickname. Mallory turns and slaps a hand over my mouth. He shakes his head, warning me not to speak.
Behind him, I see the idea of a smile made in the darkness.
He pushes me backward, whispering for me to run to the road.
A look at him, but he's already looking past me.
I turn and run, my boots tearing through the brush as I flee. I crash out of the trees onto the Highline Trail. The snow is hammering sideways across the cliff face.
The drop beside the trail is a huge, empty mouth breathing cold air.
The radio I lost is sitting on a rock in front of me.
It clicks on, and Mallory's voice comes through, calm and patient.
I back away, but the radio clicks again, and this time, it's my own voice. I see 3 figures standing on the trail ahead.
The one in the red jacket lifts his arm and points over the drop. I grab the cable with both hands, and I don't look back.
By dawn, they found me huddled near the cable, half frozen.
My hand was locked so tight to the metal they had to pry me loose.
I told them I got separated from Mallory, but I kept the rest to myself.
The search dragged on for 9 days, finding only scraps.
They found a boot print in mud that should have been frozen solid.
Then they found Mallory's hat sitting perfectly on his patrol truck.
I ran into Peter in Kalispell, standing outside a store.
He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks.
He told me the voice followed him home, calling his name every night. I stayed in the service for 3 more seasons, but I kept quiet. Every district has these stories that never make the reports. We explain them away, but we all know the truth is darker. A young ranger sent me a photo from a trail camera.
It was blurry, but I saw 3 figures at the edge of the trees. A 4th stood behind them, and there was an orange flag with my writing. 2 nights ago, my old radio turned on in the garage.
It had no battery, but it clicked to life at 6:40.
Static filled the room, and then I heard Mallory's voice. Then another voice cut through the static. It was my own voice, younger and terrified.
I stood there in the dark, smelling snow, and I didn't move.
Every night since, I hear footsteps in the gravel outside. They circle but never come to the door. Last night, there were 5 sets, and I know better than to look. This morning, there was snow on the lawn in a perfect trail. The rest of the street was dry, but the tracks led to the road.
I turned left, just like the others.
At the end of the tracks, Mallory's hat sat in the melting snow. It was waiting for me, a final piece of evidence.
I closed the curtains and sat in the dark, waiting for the sun.